there is this theory, and there's this really interesting woman called Dr. Zana on Instagram who talks a lot about non-monogamy, that says that most people want to have this kind of strong, secure primary connection in their life, and they also want the freedom to explore with other people. So it is very, we have this kind of, you could say, maybe natural need to have our special person. So I think through surveys, it has been shown that most people who are interested in non-monogamy want this kind of safe base. They want to live with a partner as well as having the freedom to explore with other people. But then you also have, like one definition of polyamory is called solo polyamory, which is if a person is single, decides to be solo polyamorous, they are like first and foremost committed to themselves. Like they might not want to share housing with other people, not get married, not have kids.
That's me, yeah.
Yeah,
and me.
Yeah, and they just want to have. I mean, they have deep connections. They have like deep emotional bonds with people. They're committed. They go on holidays. They do all kinds of things with people, but they don't go into this kind of. It's called the relationship escalator, where you just like, okay, we get engaged, move in together, get married, have kids. This kind of slow
traditional route.
Yeah, the traditional route of relationship. They're not going to go into that. So that's another way of defining how people can be in polyamorous relationships.
But if you do this, like, I guess you need to. I mean, and the conversation, for example, that you have with your husband and what people are talking about in this before they start something like this, you must agree. I don't know, some rules or some base, right? Or what would typically be what people are talking about? Like, okay, I don't want you to sleep over, or you can't be away more than 3 days or something. Are there some?
So when people have been together for a long time in a monogamous relationship and then have the discussion of opening, it is probably very important that they do it slowly. And that might mean like you're allowed to go dancing and make out with somebody, but you cannot go home with them. Like, or you can meet somebody and have sex, but you have to come home then. Or like, people might need this kind of slow progression. But I think then it depends on like how emotionally resilient they are, what kind of life view they have. Like you might also, just have a very philosophical view and just like, this makes sense, like go for it. But there is also a lot of like, attachment trauma or like attachment history that we have, which makes us afraid, which is why we need this kind of slow pace into it, building up the trust and building up this kind of, emotional resilience to be able to do this. And that's another thing that, when, like you asked before, what if one person wants this and the other one doesn't? Like, not everybody wants the emotional effort that it might take to do this. And, some people are more traumatized, they have more, abandonment issues. There's just more, more issues to work through in their own personal life that they might decide, I don't want to take on the emotional labor to do this. And that's perfectly valid. Like, even though, like, probably every human could climb Mount Everest, you don't have to.
Not everybody wants to,
Not everybody wants to put in the work to do that. So that is also a valid choice. I think some people, like, because this discussion is becoming more, obvious in society today, that people might think, okay, being polyamorous is more enlightened. It's a more correct way to do it. It's more right. It's more moral or whatever.
More natural or whatever.
More natural. No, more mature. Maybe it's like so. It's like the best way to do it. But it's not. It doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to do this. This is not better than anything else. It's just what will make you happy.
But do you like, okay, so you go out, let's say you've agreed that, okay, we're gonna ease into this slowly, and then something, you go out and you find someone. Then when that's over, or let's say, I don't know, you come home after having gone home with some guy or a girl or whatever, and then are people doing, I don't know, like a status meeting, like analyzing, okay, how did they feel and
they might do that. Yeah, and I think very likely that's what would happen if a close relationship were opening up. And I think that's definitely necessary because you're changing a lot of things. And for couples who have been together for a very long time, especially if they started out very young, like this is what they feel like. Yeah. So there has to be this kind of very slow kind of decoupling of you know, separating
this dependency somehow.
Yeah, it's like very codependent, very like, and the feeling that me and my husband had was like, I don't know where I end and you begin. Like, I don't know where the difference between me and you is, because we had been together for such a long time. I just felt like he was a part of me. So doing this kind of slow detangling of our identities and what is mine and what is yours is going to take some time. And like there is going to be hurt involved, like not deliberate, not that I will go out and, you know, have sex with somebody else and I'm trying to hurt my husband. That's not what's happening. But just the whole process of it might very likely bring up something that's going to hurt him. I
mean, there's a lot of moving parts in this.
There's a lot of moving parts in this, that's right.
And you can't, like, one situation can never be kind of replicated exactly into another. I mean, and I when I think about this is that, you know, like, sometimes sometimes when my girlfriend comes home late, I'm very happy about it because I'm watching something and I'm really happy that she's away. Yeah. But there have also been moments where I'm there like, where is she? You know, and I don't automatically assume that she's doing something that I'm not happy about. But it's, and this, I have no fucking clue what makes this difference. You know, it could be the Monday this week and then the Monday next week, and I have a completely different, and that's just about, I don't know, like how I feel at that point in time. So I guess when something like, you know, you went to be with someone else, then there's a lot of stuff to kind of dissect and digest, you know.
And in the beginning, it's gonna be really hard in the beginning. For most people, like I assume, like for many people, it's gonna be hard in the beginning, and that's why you need to take slow steps. Like if you're opening a relationship, it has to be very slow. And I think for many people, we just have a lot to learn about understanding our emotions, communicating them, understanding that our partner is not at fault for making us unhappy about things, that we have to communicate our needs. Like there's a lot of things that people need to learn. And what polyamory did for us was just like force us into learning it. Learning things, like giving us challenges and like projects to examine ourselves more that monogamy never would have. And I think that's the big like challenge that people are intimidated by. Is like, oh my God, that's going to be so emotionally taxing. It's going to be so hard, and that's true.
Because we want the easy way. I mean, we don't wanna have to think too much, and we don't wanna have to. We don't want to feel jealousy. We don't want to feel sad.
Definitely,
you know, like we're always trying to avoid these emotions. You know, so. And this is like a can of worms when it comes to that, because
like I said, it's the deep sea. There's like, you've been playing in the kiddie pool, now I'm going to put you in the sea. It's kind of what that is. But I think that with every choice, you have like pros and cons. So monogamy is going to be like safe and easy in some sense, but it might also be boring, and you might sacrifice a part of your happiness and your authenticity. But polyamory might open up a lot of freedom, but it might as well be at some times insecure. It might, you know, you have a lot of uncertainty maybe around where your life is going, where this relationship is going. So that's a part of it, and you need to process your feelings. You need to communicate with your partner.
Now, I mean, just for the sake of simplicity, let's just call it a primary relationship and a secondary relationship. I mean, so, like, I don't know, if I had a girlfriend, or like a secondary girlfriend and my primary girlfriend, and how are these people? What's the secondary person's role? You know, like, do they know? I don't know. Do they know somehow, like your boyfriend? Does he know that? Okay, well, I have this role in this whole setup. And how do you kind of present that? Maybe when you show up, wherever, you know, like you meet someone new and then you say, yeah, okay, I'm polyamorous, but this is my husband, these are my kids, this is my house, this is my dog. You're never going to get any of that, but here I am. How?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that everybody who is open to having new relationships should think about. Like, what what's kind of the vacant slot in my life, like what open positions do I have in my life. It's kind of if you're
the engineer.
Yeah, it's like if you're running a company and you have like we're hiring for this position. So yeah, like the more clear you can be about what capacity you have, what time you have available, what commitment you're open to making, the better.
And you need to communicate it, or I mean, do you know what I mean? Do you need to?
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I mean, the more clear you can be with yourself and others, the better, of course. And setting expectations, where they're realistic, is important. And I mean, people sometimes ask me like, okay, what if your boyfriend would want to have kids with you? Like that. So that's kind of the way you're going with this. And that's just in the same sense that anybody should. Like, what am I looking for? Like, what do I really want from a relationship or in my life? And is this a person who can possibly do that with me and might possibly want to do that with me? Like I said before, with the 12-sided die, I have some areas fulfilled in my life, and I have some other ones that I'm looking to fulfill. And then like having a conversation like, this is what I'm open to having with you. What are you looking for?
But would you consider that as an example? I mean, like
right now, I'm really not ready to be pregnant again and have kids. So that kind of ends that discussion. And the same for him. Like he's not ready to have kids now. So it's not something that we're considering.
But if that feeling would change, if you thought like, okay, I would like to have one more child. I mean, like
my view in life is just I'll cross that bridge when I get to it.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, makes sense. I mean. But I mean, is that in general?
Some people would do that, yeah. I mean, and there are people who are, having a child and there's 3 parents, like from the start. Yeah. Like there might be a woman or 2 women and a man, or 1 woman and 2 men, and they decide to have a kid, and like make that agreement. Like we are the 3 parents of this child. Yeah. I mean, and I know 2 gay couples, like 2 like homosexual men and then homosexual women, decided to have a child together. I know personally the people. So like anything is possible. Yeah.
But I've often wondered about this, like, because I think, oh shit. Often, when people talk poly relationships or open relationship, then it's very much just about the dynamic between those 2 people. Like in your case, you and your husband, but there is a third party, and sometimes 2 or 3 third parties or more. Yeah. And I often feel that they kind of
get left out of the conversation.
We don't hear a lot about them,
Yeah, so like, that's a really important part of it is, and that's also what's important here as well is not everybody is wanting to go through this escalator like in life. Like not everybody wants the marriage and the kids and the house. So and
for them this could be ideal to be.
Yes, and for a while I was dating a woman who wanted more alone time. She was very involved in her business. Like she didn't have a lot of time. Didn't want to be too involved with somebody. So for her, dating me was perfect. Like she could be with me like once or twice a week. I was not demanding a lot from her. I had my plate was kind of full.
Your life,
yeah. So that was kind of this perfect. Like we had this side of our die which met perfectly. Like this is perfect for us now. So and that's maybe something that we need to be more open to considering, that people want all kinds of things from life. They don't all want the marriage and the illusion of happily ever after.
No, but there's a lot of social pressure for it. I mean, like
there's a lot of social pressure, but like fuck that.
Yeah. But is there something that you agree that, like, I don't know, like in this that sets off limits? Let's say that you would never, I don't know, date an ex, or like someone that you were romantic. I mean, in your case, you
for
probably,
me, no.
Yeah, because you were 17 also when you met. I mean, so you.
Well, I had a boyfriend like every year from when I was 6 to 16. More than one. So I have a long history of like childhood relationship. Yeah. But no, like in my case, I don't have any restrictions.
No. But would that be a common thing to do? Like
some people, some people would definitely do that, and some people would set boundaries around like don't date somebody you're working with, don't date somebody in our group of friends. For people living in small towns, some people have like you're not allowed to date or have sex with anybody in our town because that the word's gonna spread. Like whatever people feel like would be uncomfortable for them. I mean, and your partner's okay with that kind of agreement? Sure.
But like, just if let's say that you go to a party, I don't know, work party or something like that, and you meet a girl that you're super attracted to, you can just go home with her.
Yeah.
Okay. So you wouldn't need to make a call or
no,
unless you were not coming home.
I mean, usually I would know if I have to come home or not.
Yeah.
And no, we don't have to do that.
So there are no.
I mean, we've been polyamorous for 4 years.
Yeah.
So we're kind of seasoned in this. But in the beginning, it might have been more, needed to be communicated. But that's what people need to do. They need to be very, and I think people in monogamous relationships should definitely do this as well. And I had a good discussion on my Instagram around what's allowed and what is not, because there's a huge gray area in all relationships where one partner might feel that this kind of behavior is okay, and the other one would say this is infidelity. Okay. So please communicate this. Just please, because this is huge, and it's gonna hurt you tremendously if something of this happened. But this is something that you can communicate beforehand. So the same goes with opening relationships. Like, know what is allowed and what is not. And if you need to take very small steps, just be very clear on what steps you need to take, and follow through on that.
Yeah. And which rules, if any, or what to communicate and when not to communicate, and so on. Yeah. We talked before we started recording. We were talking a little bit, and you mentioned it earlier, like the glue. I mean, my therapist once told me that you need to have a glue in your life, some purpose that binds you together with your partner, and that can be like a home, or kids, or business, or pets, or even a hobby.
Yeah.
And then when I started looking into your stuff, and I had actually a poly therapist on my podcast when I started it. We didn't go deep into not like this. And when I kind of started looking into this, then I was thinking like, okay, so all relationships go through like a rough patch, like you disagree about something, or you just find each other boring, like or there's
annoying.
something that annoying and bothering people. And I, for example, when COVID started, I think I thought we would kill each other. But can it be like, or is it, I don't know, is it a relevant fear to think that, okay, that this other relationship here can be my way out? Like, it's more exciting, there's a new person, it's a rush,
Yeah.
Is this a risk,
Yeah, because when you said the thing about the glue, like you need to have some kind of a glue in a relationship, that's kind of what people do when they decide to be exclusive. They kind of build this kind of like fence, like I mentioned before, which is kind of holding the relationship together. But when you have non-exclusivity, it's like, what the fuck is holding this together? Like, why are you together? And I've gotten this question. So like, since your relationship is open, why are you together? And I absolutely agree that a relationship needs to be built around some common sense or common, meaning around where the relationship is going. And, that can be living together, having kids or dog or whatever. It can also just be like, what kind of a relationship do you want to be in? Like, and for me, it would be like growth, or personal growth is a really important part for me, being honest and being, owning your shit, like not allowing your ego just to run the show. So that is like a strong meaning for me. And I think looking forward, what is going to define a good relationship is resilience. Like people are, knowing that life is going to change, they are going to change, their needs in the relationship and life is going to change. And, for me, I think the best commitment you could make is just, I will commit to giving my best and being in the relationship as long as it's serving me and you. And giving our best to it. But like saying, being polyamorous.
This is a scary thing though, sorry to interrupt you. I mean, because you're saying, I'm here as long as it's good,
yeah.
in a way.
Yeah.
But obviously it's the right way to think about it,
yeah.
because nobody wants to be in a bad relationship, neither party, or the kids, or anyone,
that's
not
right.
even the dog.
That's right, not even the dog, that's true.
So, but it's still, like, this is just a reality check that most people don't want to do, you know?
And I mean, for some people, like I said before, if you really believe in monogamy, if you really believe that staying committed to that one person throughout life, like until death do us part, do that. And if that's really what you believe is best for you, do that and do everything that you need to do that. But just know that there are like risks and challenges involved. It's gonna be hard, and that it's probably gonna mean that you might sacrifice doing some things that you want in your life. But if you really believe that this is the best way for you to do it, I think you can do it and you can find meaning in that. But I just don't believe that. And that's kind of the, like what we're seeing is that a failed relationship is such a horrible term when relationships end. Like, so that when a relationship ends, it's deemed as failing. But we shouldn't stay in relationships that don't make us happy. You grow out of them. You grow out of them. And I think what I really want to encourage people to do is, like, don't be lazy. Like, don't just allow the relationship to dissolve and disconnect because you're lazy and you're not doing the work. Like, don't do that. Like, really show up, really be true to you, like commit time to connecting and like building this deep bond and deep intimacy, like really do that. But if you're doing that and you still kind of end up in this, like, it would serve me more, I would be more happy if I could live there or have this kind of a lifestyle or do that something or whatever, that you don't want to do, or that you don't see how you can fit into the picture of doing that because you want to do something that looks different, then the people would be happier separate. Yeah. I mean, that is my radical view of relationships. Not everybody agrees with that, maybe.
No, but I think fear of honesty is the biggest problem we have in relationships. You know, we don't want to talk about those, as you mentioned. But
we're afraid of honesty because we're afraid of breaking up.
Yeah. We're afraid of being,
or we're afraid of not being the only one our partner wants or desires. Yeah. Like, that is the strongest fear. We're afraid that you might want to break up with me, or I'm afraid that you might want to have sex with somebody else. And I want to avoid these at all costs.
Yeah, no matter what.
No matter what.
Yeah, Þórhildur, so what's the kind of, when it comes to polyamory, what's the most common kind of misconception that people have?
The most common kind of stereotype or misconception people have is that it's just about sex and that it cannot work and that it's like the last resort to save a relationship. That's kind of the three most common kind of, blah, 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 that people would say. Yeah.
And that part about saving, I mean, obviously, for me, the sex part is obvious. It is. Also,
it's a big part of it, I mean, definitely.
It must be, because we are attracted sexually to more people than just one.
And sex is just fun, like, and pleasure is good for you. It's like this classic quote, and it's just sex negativity that keeps us kind of trapped in, like, you're just supposed to be happy with one person. Like, having sex with more people is fun.
But the what you said last part, like a way to kind of fix.
That opening a relationship is the last resort to saving it.
Yeah. But isn't it possible that, like, in some cases that, like, I don't know, because I mean, relationship dynamics between people and couples and married people are there's often, let's say, a disbalance when it comes to power.
Imbalance in power, yeah.
Isn't it possible that in some cases that a person has convinced their partner to go into something like this, whereas the partner says, I don't really want this, but he or she wants this, so I'm just gonna tag along and deal with it. Yeah,
I mean, that's codependency and violence, and not good. Yeah, I mean, that is also that what you mentioned is also a very common misconception. Like, people might think, like, he or she just convinced him to do it to get her way with him, and, like, if that's actually what's happening, please. Like, help these people. But no, that's usually not the thing. And like I said before, if one person wants it and the other one doesn't, they are going to be miserable staying together. Like, one of them has to sacrifice a part of themselves. And if that's what you're doing, and I really encourage people when they look to my advice around this, is like, don't do this for your partner. Like, please don't. You have to find out for yourself if this is what you want, and you have to do it on your own terms. Like, you have to do it because I want to be in an open relationship, not because I want to stay with this partner. Like, if this partner wants an open relationship and you don't open the relationship to stay with that partner. Please don't. But some people do.
Yeah, and I think.
And then they blame their partner and they feel miserable.
Yeah.
Like I said, one of them is going to be miserable.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, not just when it comes to this, I think a lot of people spend their lives kind of fulfilling other people's wishes, you know, and then they wake up at 50 or 60 and they're super miserable and then they become vengeful and boring. And
the worst part is you have nowhere to point fingers at. Like, because at the end of the day, you are responsible for your happiness. And don't get me wrong, I think there is like perfectly solid ground for people trying it, because you might not know if this is something that you want or not. So even like it might scare you in the beginning and you're not sure if you're just doing it to save your partner or to save the relationship, or if it's something you actually want. So you might need a trial period to test it out and see how it feels and see if you like it. And like after that you can evaluate, no, this is not what I want. I don't like this. I'm not willing to do this, like, and that's fine.
But like in your case, why would you have chosen poly versus swinging? I mean, let's say, what was it that you were looking for that was not just sexual? Yeah,
good point. Like for me, I had the experience of falling in love with somebody else, or like maybe feeling attracted and having a crush on somebody else. So I knew that I cannot control my feelings. Like I said, with the swimming pool, like pee over here, not pee over here. Yeah. Like I knew that even when I didn't want to develop feelings for this person, it still happened. Yeah. Just because there was chemistry, I liked the person, we enjoyed spending time together. And having experienced that, and as well, like experiencing the heartbreak of having to like sever that connection, because I just kind of had to limit all contact with him to kind of like save me and my relationship, which felt like I was heartbroken. It was like I lost my best friend. Yeah. So I knew I didn't believe in limiting feelings or chemistry you have with people. So. That's why swinging didn't appeal to me in that sense, like you can only have sex with the person and not have feelings and not enjoy spending time with them. Because I also just wanted to get to know people more. And have somebody to go hiking with, or like whatever it is that we would like to do.
And that's like I mean, I think that's touches on that fear and jealousy, is that like you yourself were never afraid that you would have more fun or so much fun with someone else that you would kind of close the other door behind you.
Leave my husband. Yeah. Well, so the thing with this is a very common fear that people have, and so when I was previously having a crush on my coworker, the only option I had in my mind was either I have to break up with my husband to stay with this one, or break him out of my life and stay with my husband. Like there was no.
You didn't want to cheat.
I didn't want to cheat, obviously not. So there was no way that they could coexist in my life. But being polyamorous, I don't have to choose. Yeah. So even if now I have a boyfriend, and I really love spending time with him, I don't have to leave my husband to spend time with him. I will spend time with both of them. I don't have to exclude them. So that's kind of, the thinking that people have to kind of get used to when they see this is, what happens if you want the other one more? The only reason I would break up with my husband is if I don't want to spend time with him anymore. Yeah. But
it's just such a binary thing that we have a really hard time kind of.
I know.
It's just listening to you say this is like, oh, shit, I swear it,
Yeah, but that's the reality of it. Yeah. We have this very black and white view of everything, but that's not how life works.
No. And that's not how emotions and feelings work, for sure, or desires,
Yeah, so I think also a good way that can help people understand this is when people have a child, they love this child very much, and then they have another child, and they just love that child as well. They love it more. Their heart just expands, and that's exactly how I feel. When I enter a relationship with somebody, I can just feel how my heart grows. Yeah. It's not that It's not that I only have one tank of love and that I have to take from this one to give to another one. No, it's not like that. It's not a zero-sum game.
And what about your, let's say, your marriage? I mean, how has this made your marriage better?
It has, yes. Yes.
In which way?
So mostly in the beginning it was like just being free to express myself and not being confined by the fear that my husband might freak out if I told him about some sexual fantasy I had or about a person I liked or something. That it was just like, wow, okay, I can accept that he wants to do things that do not involve me and that he can accept me for wanting things that don't involve him. Which just, like, the relaxation of being able to express yourself in that way was phenomenal. And also, like, letting go of the expectation that I need to have everything fulfilled from him, which is something that I had, you know, before starting talking about polyamory. This was an idea that I had come to terms with in my kind of research into how can I make my relationship better. Because there was some area in my life that he was like not interested into at all, like you mentioned before, like you wanted to go hiking, your girlfriend doesn't like it. So I had like bumped into that wall of being like, why doesn't he like this? And realizing, well, okay, I just need to have friends who can talk to me about these things, or like I have to find this somewhere else. So I had already started to kind of dismantle this kind of fantasy in my mind that I should have everything fulfilled from him. But just kind of, this really just brings it home, like really, that he's not supposed to fulfill everything for me.
But you grew. Do you feel that your marriage or your relationship with your husband has grown somehow? I mean, obviously it's more honest and it's more solid, I guess.
Yeah, and just, okay, as well as like, since we started together so young, like 17, for us, we both like physically feel this kind of merging of our lives, like we're intertwined, and just having this slow kind of decoupling of our identities and realizing I am my person, I am responsible for this and this and this, and these are my feelings, these are your feelings. It just makes everything so much more clear. There's more clarity around what issue we're dealing with. Like, okay, we have an issue here. This is an issue with me feeling this way because of blah, blah, blah. This is my responsibility. It's not, you don't have to come in and fix everything for me. And these are all skills and, you know, attributes of a good relationship that any relationship should have.
Yeah, regardless of being poly
regardless
or not.
of being poly or not.
But by going into poly, you kind of had to dissect everything.
Yes, really.
Yeah.
Really had to dissect.
Because that's what I notice on your content is that it actually, I mean, poly is where you are, but the stuff you're talking about actually should be talked about in every relationship, you know, who's responsible for what can we expect from the relationship. And then, in your case, you're poly, but other people could choose to be monogamous, but they need the same kind of treatment, you know, or pattern in their behaviors and relationship. Yeah.
So I think, and also like talking about sex, like because we had been together for such a long time, in my mind, and probably in his as well, like my sexuality was kind of his. Like my whole sexual identity and like my sexual being was completely connected to him, and everything that we, like our sex life together was like my sex life. So becoming polyamorous and having sex with other people was just like, wow, yeah, okay, I have this whole like sexual mind and identity that is just mine. Yep. That's not his. Yep. It doesn't have anything to do with him. Yep. And that was a really refreshing experience for me, and I think for a lot of women, to have, it's kind of like getting the sexual sovereignty back. And I know it sounds crazy, but the way society has kind of, you know, raised women to be this kind of property of men, even though nobody talks this way today. The effect of it is still there. So, yeah.
But talking about sex, for example, I mean, did this improve your sex life with your husband, or changed it
absolutely.
somehow?
Yeah, it changed a lot. Like for one, it was just fun and exhilarating to finally be talking about things openly, like talking about what we actually like, talking about things we actually wanted to do, and just kind of having this kind of fantasy talk for the first time for real, which any couple can do. Again, like all of these things I'm saying is not limited to polyamory. But yeah, just like me kind of getting back my, like I said, sexual sovereignty, and getting this feeling back like that my sex life is mine. it kind of empowered me, which is good for sex.
What about your boyfriend and your husband? I mean, I've seen it on your Instagram. They have met. I know that they have met. But like, is that common in a polyamorous relationship? That, I mean, would it be like a setup? Oh, well, you actually mentioned the gay couples and the lesbian couple that have the kids together.
Yeah.
So I guess
they're not polyamorous though. But
no, but I mean, I guess in the same way as that can happen or happens, is that like, would you imagine that you would be in a relationship with your husband and some other person, and you would just all go together, I don't know, playing golf?
Yeah, sure. I could see that happening. I think it requires that all of the individuals involved have this kind of have come to terms with polyamory in their life, and they're like feeling, satisfied with this identity in their life. I think if people are very new to polyamory, that it's more hard to grasp the idea of spending time with your Metamorse, which is what it's called. Metamorse, like a meta, amor, like love. So Metamorse is the term for this. So yeah, when you're like new to polyamory and are kind of might be intimidated by this idea, and you still have a lot of identity work and emotional work to do, it might be more hard. But I know a bunch of people, like in Iceland as well, that have really come to terms with being polyamorous, and they're just very rooted in their polyamorous identity, and they're completely fine with spending time with other partners. But it's not necessary. You don't have to do that.
But do you see that relationship as as an extended part of your family in some way? Do you know what I mean? Could you, I don't know, let's say that you were seeing a guy and he's a great carpenter or something, and then something needs to be done around the house, and your husband is not a carpenter, he's a software engineer or whatever,
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, people actually do that, yeah. I know of people in Iceland who like built a kind of a veranda outside of their house, and the husband and the boyfriend were helping each other out doing it. So yeah, all kinds of, babysitting, and there's also, and it just comes down to what people are, what they enjoy doing, what they're willing to contribute to the relationship or the family or whatever, and what everybody is happy with.
Talking about that, now you started mentioning Iceland and building verandas outside. So Iceland is really funny in that way that everybody has a veranda and a hot tub, but the weather doesn't really...
No, you never use it.
Yeah, you never use it. So but you put this wood protection on it every 2 years, and you fucking hate it.
Yeah.
But we all do it.
But for the 3 days during summer that the weather is good, you absolutely love it.
Yeah. But most of us then complain, it's too warm here.
Yeah.
It's kind of too warm.
Yeah.
But it's crazy actually. I've been here now for 5 days, and my first morning, or 4 days or something, the first morning I went out running, it was sunny, and I was like, wow, this is great. And I was running here down, actually around here where we are. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then I stopped at a cafe on the way home, had some coffee and some water, and then I walked back, and then it started snowing. I was like, this is the good old Iceland.
Yeah, I know.
But talking about that, I mean, Iceland is 360,000 people. It's a very small community, extremely, no disrespect, but has a very high level of herd mentality. And there is not like a lot of space for diversity, at least, well, it depends a little bit on who you are and how you say it, but I don't know. I feel like we are we're following that escalator a lot. And I can imagine, but first when I found you and I was looking at you, I was like, wow, this girl is brave. Like this is like, I don't know, this is like standing up in heaven and say, I believe in the devil,
Yeah.
How has this journey been for you in terms of, being judged and stuff like that? I mean, on a kind of a societal level more.
Yeah. So the interesting thing, like with a small society like this, like everybody talks about things, but nobody talks about them to your face.
No, exactly.
So almost nobody has come to me to discuss their opinions about this.
Not even when they're drunk?
Maybe I'm not that much around drunk people. So maybe I don't have that. But I mean, I read the comments. I read all the comments, and I was just like, yeah, it's everything that I expected.
What is the most common response, I mean, or reaction?
I mean, a lot of it is just like these obscene jokes around, you know, sex is, you know, one of them. They say, oh, what a slut, blah, 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 something like that, which was to be expected.
But there's nothing wrong with being a slut? If
exactly.
Yeah.
So that was like, that's actually a very interesting part of my journey into being public about this, because when I thought about the idea of being public about this, I of course thought like, okay, well, what are people gonna say? And I like asked the polyamorous community in Iceland, like, so should I do an interview? Should I talk about this? What do you say? And some of them said like, well, I did this and this in an interview. It didn't go well. There were bad repercussions for me, you know, professionally or whatever. So I knew, so I thought, okay, what would people say? What might people think? And obviously a lot of, you know, sexual shame, like what a slut, blah, blah, blah. These are just, you know, sex addicts, whatever people might think.
Like that's not probably the worst addiction though to have, I mean.
Probably not. So I decided that if I were going to be public about this, that I had to be okay with being misjudged and that people might misunderstand me. And to be able to do that, I also had to, or I decided to like come to kind of face my own, what can I say, prejudice around sluts, basically. And just being okay with being called a slut. And thinking like, okay, if I know somebody who has a lot of sex with a lot of people, do I judge that? No, I don't. You're perfectly fine. You're an adult, consenting people. Do whatever you want. Absolutely. So I don't judge that. So that kind of made me okay with coming out, talking about this, and facing whatever judgment people are going to bring. And another part of it is, so let's say somebody that I know would read these news and think something obscure and horrific about me. If they don't have the courage to come and talk to me about how that is affecting their relationship with me and their image of me, then that shows me the level of commitment that they are willing to have with me. So if they read something about me and judge me in some way that they then decide they don't want to be friends with me based on what they think of me now.
Then they were never your friends in the first place.
I wouldn't say in that way. I would say like, too bad for them. Like, and if that's how they define their friends based on their idea of what they read in the media and not on what they actually have in the connection with the people, then that's their choice. So if people are not coming to me and saying, I'm worried about you, I have now changed my view of you and I now judge you in a negative way, are you willing to explain your life to me, or can you tell me more so that I can understand why you would do this in order for me to like save our relationship? If you don't do that with me, then that is your choice and that is your responsibility in your relationship to me. So I'm not doing anything new, I'm just continuing who I am and saying how I live my life. If that's going to change how much people are going to want to be friends with me or whatever, then that's their choice.
Have you lost some friends, or
No.
have some people that are not part of your life now?
No.
And what about your grandma?
She is actually the only one who has actually called me and said, hi, I just really wanted to tell you I'm reading the news. I love you and I hope you're happy.
That's great.
Yeah. So she's been very understanding.
Great. Yeah.
And I mean, obviously for parents, it's just like, you know, you don't want to have your nose in your kid's sex life. You don't want to know too much about what's happening. No. So I mean, that's understandable.
But I was thinking about this because I know that you have 2 children, and I wasn't a really nice kid when I was a kid. It's amazing how nicely I turned out considering how I started. And I remember whenever there was someone in our school that, I don't know, had somehow some different setup, even if the parents were just divorced, or I remember this guy that his father had died, you know, like it was the stigma around these kids somehow. and I don't know, I mean, obviously this is many years ago, so I mean, a lot of stuff has changed, and I was talking to a friend, because I was telling a friend of mine yesterday that I was going to talk to you here, and his wife said to me, like, you have to keep in mind, Almar, that in a child's class today are probably going to be 3 children that have an unsecure sexual identity or something like that, so there's a lot of...
Homosexual parents, you know,
So there is much more diversity right now, but have you explained this to your oldest child, for example, and how did that go? I mean, how does that work?
Exactly. They both know. They have met my boyfriend. They know he's my boyfriend. So the way this conversation has gone in our family is just similar to how we would educate them on any other, you know, sexual societal issue. So saying like, some people consider it that you have to have a rule that you can only, you know, have a crush on one person. We don't have that rule. So my son once asked me like, Mom, what would you do if Dad would kiss another woman? And I said, well, I'm sure he would just tell me about it and it wouldn't be that big a deal. But obviously he had heard some kind of discussion in his class, like around cheating or something like that. And so he was probably expecting me to say like, oh my God, that would be the worst or something like that. But I could just calmly explain to him like, well, our relationship is not built on that rule and it wouldn't be so bad. The same way we would say some people once thought that you could only have a man and a woman in a relationship, but we know that's not the only way you can have a relationship. So in kind of age-appropriate way, we've kind of simply explained how we live our life. And so when I was like meeting my boyfriend, he knew I had this friend who was called this, and like he would sometimes see, like I was texting him, he would see his name. And then one day he asked me like, you know, is he your boyfriend? Like after he had met him, like we went swimming together or something. And I said, yeah. So I kind of have this policy that I'm not going to lie to my kids if they ask me, but I don't have to explain everything to them in detail, and I don't have to, like, obviously, you know, say inappropriate things to them.
No. I mean, it has to be according to the level which they are able to understand and digest. Yeah,
but you know, continuing on this kind of societal pressure or taboo in Iceland or any other small community. I mean, I did think about being public in regards to my kids, like how. What do I believe is right? How should this go? La la la. And for me, I just came to the conclusion, like, I want my kids to know who I am, and I want to live my life as true to me as I possibly can. And I think that's the best way for me to set, you know, a good example for my kids and be a good role model and be true.
And I think you would want them to do the same.
I would want them to do the same. And I think. So if I try to put myself in the shoes of my kids, or like in the shoes of any kid, where there's like something going on in the lives of the parents that the parents might think they want to hide from their kids, I think that is a much more harmful thing, that the parents are hiding something from their kids than what the actual thing is. Because in this case, what the thing is just me wanting to be me and love in the way that I want.
It's not like you're doing something illegal or keeping slaves in the basement or something.
So because I fully believe in the way that I live, and that I think it's like beautiful and true and perfectly fine, I think there's no reason for me to hide it from my kids.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, you kind of decide to come out with this and go public, and I mean, I guess that put a lot of different. I mean, then you had to start explaining to people, because I mean, you could have been poly and just not tell
anybody. Yeah, and that's what the majority of people do. And a lot of people in Iceland have like said either in the comments or sent me text like, thank you for doing this, and thank you for being so brave of opening this discussion on behalf of us who cannot.
But how do you know? Like I asked you, like before we started recording, I was saying so, and you said there's a secret handshake. but is there like I don't know, like in a community like Iceland, there was always these rumors about the pineapple in the shopping cart in a supermarket that indicated something. But is there some? I mean, I don't know. Is there a community? Is there a?
Yeah, there's a community. We have a group on Facebook that is private and hidden that you can't find. So you can't just look it up and go see the directory of who's polyamorous. You have to know somebody on the inside to be able to access the group. which is important to a lot of people because a lot of people are not open about this. But otherwise, like if you're, so what we did in the beginning, like we were on Tinder, but we would have it, you can pay and get like a membership, so you can have it set to like secret, so nobody can see me unless I've right swiped them.
Okay.
So that way I could filter out all the uncles and you know, friends that I didn't want to know.
Because that's Iceland, you know, you're most likely going to see a relative there.
So I mean, that's one way to be polyamorous and private. But then I think people are not that nosy.
But I think I remember when I was, you know, like young here, and the striptease was starting, and it was a completely new thing, and I was like, wow, this is amazing, you know. And then
you mean like a strip club?
Yeah. And then you kind of, I remember, you know, I kind of assumed that for some reason, I mean, yeah, stereotyping and whatever, that the girls that did this were somehow different than regular girls, that they wanted something else or whatever, and that they were only thinking about sex. I mean, and then when I started knowing them, or some of them, I realized that okay, they're just regular girls that just do this job.
Yeah.
Has that, like, when you came out with this, like, kind of publicly, do you feel that people approach you somehow differently? Do you know what I mean? I mean, I don't know, if you were standing in a bar.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Do they think that this is gonna be easy? She's open.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I'm sure that some people might think of me differently in that way. I would sense that very fast, and you would not get a pass. And yeah, I mean, I do receive like some messages that are kind of.
Dick pics or?
No, but people who. How can I explain? Like, so people who are possibly polyamorous or swinging or somehow, you know, open in that way, they're very interested in discussing it with me. Whereas I'm not so interested in hearing about their life. And it's just like, I'm cool with it. Yeah, I know, like, it's no big deal. So I think that's like one way. But so far, I haven't had any very inappropriate approaches.
But why do men do that? Why do they send dick pics? I'm just curious because I never got the answer. Has it ever worked?
No,
no,
it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So please stop doing that.
Yeah. No more unsolicited dick pics.
Yeah.
So maybe finally, or kind of to sum it up, like if people are interested in this, I mean, like, is there like 3-4 things that you would say, like, this is, you know, your must-haves, you have to do this before you even consider it? What would those things be if someone who's listening to this wants to now like, kind of start exploring?
Well, you really have to face yourself, be honest with yourself. Like, I think that's the first and foremost thing that you have to have present, and you have to be able to process your feelings and communicate. So for the majority of people, myself included, like in the beginning, it meant I have to level up my emotional maturity. Like, that's what you have to have. And you probably will have to work on, you know, shame around sex, definitely follow, and, you know, communication is definitely gonna be needed. And, you know, that's not something that I can like explain here because communication is like everybody says like communication is key, and it is, but it is a very it has to be very intentional, and before you can have good communication, you have to have good understanding of yourself. So that understanding of yourself, honest with yourself, is like the first and foremost thing that you need to do.
But is there like I don't know, is there a checklist somewhere? I don't know. Like,
yeah, I mean, there are books.
Yeah.
There are books that are good. Opening Up is a really good book. That's got like it's like a manual for opening up relationships, and it's gonna really guide you through. What are your boundaries? What are you okay with? What are you not okay with? What discussions do you need to have? Agreements, all kinds of things. Ethical Slut is a perfect book.
Yeah, I've heard about that one.
Yeah,
actually,
it's a really good one. It's going to deconstruct your shame around sex a lot, and kind of these rigid ideas of what sex is, what it's not. Yeah, it's a really good book for that. Polysecure. I haven't read the whole book, but I followed the author and read some of her like interviews and stuff. That book dives into what I kind of touched on, like the emotional trauma or like attachment issues, which is kind of the root of why people avoid this. So that book is just going to explain to you, why are we so afraid of this? Why is it so hard? And how can we work with it? Like working with our nervous system, you know, the communication, and understanding really what's underneath the insecurity. So that's going to be a really helpful book for people.
And then there are people like you, I mean, that are sharing this.
Yeah.
I mean, you're sharing a lot of knowledge for free. I mean,
in Icelandic, of course.
Yeah. But like, is there a situation where a couple that is in, I don't know, an Icelandic couple that is interested in exploring this, that they could order like a one-on-one with you? Like
they can.
And there you kind of go through the process with them, you discuss and guide them, right?
Yeah. They can do that. And I've had more individuals than couples, because I have a lot of people come to me like that are considering this and are kind of mustering up the bravery to talk about this with their partner. But yeah, I've also met couples who are like, what are our next best steps? Like, we really want to do this well. Like, how can you help us navigate this? So yeah, you can find more people who are doing consultations like that.
Yeah. But if you would think about like the most common mistake, that if you see something where people keep failing at this somehow, or this goes wrong, what?
That would be like trying to control things you can't control.
Okay.
And that's life. That's life. Yeah. But really, just really try to understand what you're trying to control. You're trying to control how much your partner is attracted to you. You're trying to control how much they love you, or what they can do for you, or you're trying to control how much they like somebody else, because you think that's going to reflect onto how much they like you. Like all of these tiny little things that you really wish you could control, but you can't.
Yeah.
So for me, Buddhism and yoga and like meditation, all this kind of spiritual practice has helped me tremendously, letting go of the pain and the suffering around these issues. And I think like that's the silver lining of my content, is the kind of the inner work that you have to do in order to not create more of suffering in your own life.
Yeah, I don't know why, but for some bizarre reason, I never suffered from any massive jealousy or anything like this, but and I always had this very weird, I always thought if I have a girlfriend, she's there because she wants to be there. Yeah. She's not there because I force her to be there, or someone told her, Yeah,
and that's the idea that that's the true glue in a relationship. And you just have to really focus your attention on that if you're in a polyamorous relationship. Like, this person has a choice. And that's like, I now have a course running that's called The Choice is Yours. And you just have to be really sure, like, you are choosing to be in this relationship, and your partner is choosing it as well. And also letting go of, like, you're not trying to convince your partner to be with you. You're not trying to box them in. They have a choice to be with you. And trust that they are using that choice to be with you.
Yeah, exactly. They're not there for other, or or
I mean, sometimes they are. Sometimes people stay in relationship because they feel obliged, or they're afraid of how society will judge them if they break up. So sometimes people are actually staying in a relationship out of obligation. Please stop that.
Yeah. Any negatives of this?
Okay, so there's like pros and cons of every kind of relationship. What could be the negative of this one? I mean, I've never...
Having to go on podcasts and spend 2 hours with people...
I don't have to do that. I choose to do that.
Okay.
I mean, there's in some sense, there's like less certainty. There's less boredom that comes with not having certainty.
So that's exciting.
That's exciting. Sometimes the excitement is too much. I mean, for me, it just feels like the right choice in how to live my life, so I wouldn't change it.
You wouldn't, And you are there because you didn't find the negatives, or there haven't been...
Yeah, I mean, for me, the positives really outweigh the negatives. And the negatives are just like, I mean, you can experience more heartbreak. That's a negative. I mean, I've had my heart broken like 2 times already in this process. I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't go back and not have the relationships that had to end. So if you love more, you could also get your heart broken more.
Yeah, it's a risk.
It's a risk. Love is a risk.
I was a guy that I was talking, he was actually, I haven't published that episode, but I was talking to him, and he's in an open relationship. His girlfriend suggested that, and he said that it's the quickest decision I said yes to. That was the quickest suggestion.
Yeah.
And And he said that was so strange. He said like he was sitting with her, comforting her when some boyfriend ghosted her. You know, like some guy that she was gonna meet, and then she had dressed up and everything, and then the guy ghosted. And it just really made me think that there are situations and circumstances in this that you can't really picture upfront in a way.
No. That's absolutely, and we've definitely had that. Like my husband has been, you know, comforting me on several occasions where I'm like a mess because of somebody else.
Well, that's crazy, but it's great also. I mean,
and I mean, when I broke up with my girlfriend, he was really sad. Like he was like, I saw how happy you were with her. Like I'm sad that you had to break up.
Wow, this is, I mean, this is brave, or how do you say, adult. Let's say, or mature. Yeah, I mean, because we're not doing like he's not doing it out of obligation. It's his choice, and we're choosing it because we want to. And in that sense, he wants me to be happy. So if I have a relationship that makes me happy, he is happy for me. Even though sometimes it means like that I'm not spending like this weekend with him because I'm doing something else. Like, but if I'm doing it because I'm happy doing it, then he's happy for me. And he gets a better version of you back home, and you get a better version of him back home.
Same,
I mean, like that's for sure. I mean, I know when my girlfriend went on a yoga retreat, she came back, and I was like, wow, this is an upgrade, you know, like it's great.
Yeah.
Because that was something that she really wanted to do, you know.
And for me, that's exactly what polyamory is. It's like a freedom to be constantly upgrading myself. There's no limits on how I can upgrade myself.
That's the engineer.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, and being like fully authentic.
I think we're kind of we're done in a way. Like so, people that are there are Icelandic people going to see this and hear this. So that's where can they follow you? And I will put that in the episode notes as well. But
easiest way is at Instagram. Sundur saman is the easiest way. Yeah.
And guys. So thanks for watching, listening, whatever, and check out Þórhildur's social media. It's really cool stuff, and
one day it's going to be in English. So.
Why do you speak such a great English? Why is your English so great?
I don't know. Well, my dad lives in the United States, and I visited him like every summer, so maybe that's why.
Yeah, because I don't know. I mean, like in general, Icelandic people speak English quite well, but you have this accent that I was like, obviously you live somewhere abroad or something. Guys, so follow the show. There's a YouTube channel also where I started doing those videos, like I call it ranting from the car, where I talk about stuff that is on my mind. I just released one now about 6 things that I like about Iceland and 6 things that I don't like about Iceland after having been here for a few days. And I tackle these kind of, you know, basically whatever comes to my mind. So it's like 5 to 10 minute videos, and then the podcast episodes are there, but most of them are not in video. So you're better off watching and listening to them on Spotify or Apple or Google or whatever. It's been great to have you. Yeah. It's really, really. I mean, I have a much longer list of things, so I will get you for the sequel. You know, part 2. Yeah. And good luck with all this, and
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you.